Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and today we're talking about the Orville launch day #1. So, we've never talked about the Orville before, but we've never talked about Star Trek before, and it's going to be a fun little week of exploring two different sci-fi franchises and how they're currently being adapted in comics. I quite enjoyed the Star Trek book that we reviewed to start out this week's batch of comics. And I saw like an advertisement for this Orville book and figured I'd pick it up as well. Also, assuming it might be a bit of an interesting contrast. Plus, I haven't thought about or dealt with the Orville as like a series or anything in some time. I've seen all episodes of it, but it's been so long since that last season that I haven't really given it much of a second thought, though I don't dislike the series overall. It's a really authentic sort of echo of Star Trek The Next Generation, and it's fun to have real takes on those types of sci-fi shows like straight from that era pretty much. I quite enjoy the Orville, though I will say it every once in a while derails itself with some sort of Family Guy style like throwaway joke or something like that that feels not only out of place with the larger series, but just never makes me laugh. In spite of that, the Orville as a series does have good moments of just classic Star Trek style storytelling, but also just larger sci-fi moments in general, and that play out plenty of tropes for fun episodes. And I think best of all has like little moments of parodying Star Trek in a more smarter, subtle Galaxy Quest kind of way. And in those moments, the Orville can be pretty strong. So that's how I feel about the series as a whole. But then we get to this book by David A. Goodman, who did the script, David Cabeza, who did artwork, and Michael Atea, who did colors. And it's an interesting little product overall because I didn't really get much humor out of this book whatsoever. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing because there's no like Family Guy jokes, but also it felt like quite a fun little take on just a sci-fi story. Launch Day, I assumed, was going to be more of a thing about the Orville's origins as a ship or the crew in their early days, which we did kind of see in the show anyways. But Launch Day refers to an actual day upcoming on this alien homeworld, and it's just sort of a story of the Orville crew dealing with that alien planet, infiltrating it, learning about it, and just kind of going over this world's history. It just felt like any other sci-fi, or sorry, more specifically, any other Star Trek story dealing with a similar plotline. Plus, I like these characters. They've all been well established through the show. And best of all, Cabeza and Atea do amazing work with the art, and it really just feels like a snapshot of the show, minus those Family Guy style jokes, which, like I mentioned, are the part of the show I like the least. Plus, it's a comic, so they can really flex. Like, they don't have to worry about the budgets. They can kind of show different worlds, do different things. The Orville teams up with a fleet of their enemies, or, well, former enemies. They're kind of like the Klingon ripoffs. Krill is what they're called. I couldn't remember. And it's all quite interesting. I think I would definitely recommend it before I get into spoilers overall. And I quite enjoyed it. Whereas Halzmir, the Star Trek comic we reviewed, was a pretty serious affair, but felt like just a fun Mirror Universe episode. This feels like a fun little, like, laid back in its tone, relatively light, like Star Trek plot, just like under the banner of the Orville instead. And yeah, so that's how I'll leave it for a spoiler-free part. But I will say, with more spoilers in mind, especially because it's only 2 parts, so if you have any interest in it, you really should just kind of check it out. But the book itself is about this race of aliens that used to be part of the Orville's little Federation equivalent before they abruptly pulled out of space. and no one's really heard of them for years and years, or really knows what their planet's been up to. And they eventually encounter a krill ship that's heading there, and they explain there is some sort of massive energy buildup happening on this alien planet, and they don't really know what it is. But if it's a weapon, then like the, basically the Orville is ordered to work with the Krill government to destroy that weapon and anyone else if need be, kind of thing. And it's a pretty cool plot line. They're teaming up with former enemies from the show to deal with this potential new threat, but it is a race that kind of resembles the Andorians from Trek that just sort of were part of the Union of Worlds that are part of Orville's little like that's the Federation thing, and they were democratically ruled and had a technology equivalent to a futuristic Earth before they just sort of abruptly cut out of the Union for no apparent reason. So Captain Mercer and the second in command, I forget her name, but whatever, they disguise as these aliens and go to infiltrate this world. I've seen that plot like a million times on different TNG things, but I don't think ever quite under these circumstances, which I quite enjoy. And we get a nice little scene with Boris, who's one of the main characters on the Orville, talking with his family. And again, it's not really played for laughs. It's just a sincere discussion of this race and whether or not they should, like, what they should do about this potential threat. And it just is told from the well-established perspective of those characters. If you've read, like, if you've seen the Orville, I think you'll appreciate how well this book does that. Not only recreating real people, but also doing a good job with their characters. So they go to this alien world. They realize there's like an economy there, which messes them up because they don't have any money and they have to like run away from some food they sort of took. They also are baffled by the level of like technology around them, which seems to have regressed considerably. And then they see a big announcement talking about this launch day coming up on this world. And it seems like something quite ominous. And the sense I get is that these aliens have used aliens from their perspective, so beings like from outside of their world, as a sort of external threat to maybe consolidate power or something like that. Because this authority figure starts talking about how like there's alien infiltrators on their worlds, undermining their future, and launch day is supposed to somehow compensate for that, I guess. Meanwhile, the Orville manages to find the device that's been building up the power that the Krill and the Union have detected, and is clearly part of launch day, and it very much resembles a weapon. We'll go so far as to say it looks like some sort of Death Star thing, which kind of fits into maybe what's going on with the story here. And that's it. That's the end of the first book in a two-part little series Dark Horse is putting out, but I don't dislike it. And this book's kind of interesting because it's just part of this transition period, we'll say, for Dark Horse, as they've lost Star Wars, Alien, Predator, like all these things that they used to be a backbone of their company. It'll be curious to see what sort of franchises they seek out to fill that niche, because they really need to at this point beyond Hellboy. So that's part of why I picked this up too. I'm interested to see what Dark Horse can do. I will say I don't necessarily know if the Orville is capable of building up like a franchise enough within Dark Horse to really be this powerhouse of like an ongoing series beyond like the occasional two-parter or something like that. But that Dark Horse is able to put out a book that looks this good and is that authentically done to for a franchise, I think is a good sign, because that's the sort of thing they can either use to springboard their own franchises like Hellboy, or acquire some sort of property that can really be used as a vehicle to tell more stories and make more comics. I say that because I think Dark Horse could use it, even if they do like kind of cater to certain indie crowds and create that sort of thing. Having some sort of franchise has always kind of been part of Dark Horse, and it would be nice for them to do that. maybe it's not necessary for them, but they added so much to the Star Wars, Alien, Predator, like these big franchises, that even the work of Dark Horse has affected them in other adaptations going forward, like all three. So the hope is that Dark Horse can continue doing that for other franchises, or at least that's my hope. So I'm not against them creating original ideas and doing stuff again like Hellboy or other works they've done in the past. I just hope that they can do this sort of thing for other franchises like Orville or something else down the road. So yeah, that's the end of my review. Thanks for joining, everybody, and I do still have one more book to talk about from last week, which will be interesting. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys next time here on Comic Island. Bye bye.